Assalamu alaikum. My name is Afdhel Aziz. It's such an honor to be here with you today. I've traveled to you from Los Angeles, California, a city that's been in the news, as you might have seen. And I'm here to talk to you about a topic that I've spent my life researching, the idea of purpose. As I believe you say here, maqsood. What is it in your life? What is it in your companies? What is it in your society? What is it in your beautiful city that I've had the pleasure of exploring over the last few days? This truly is not just an oasis in a desert that you have created, but I believe that it is a city that can inspire cities all around the world. It truly is a city where the future is happening today. That's why I'm excited to come and talk to you about this topic of how we can harness purpose and put it to service with project management to solve some of the biggest problems in the world today. Before we get started, you'll see a little QR code up there. If you would like to have all of these slides, all of this data, take a second, pull out your phone, take a picture. It'll send you to a link you can fill out later, and then we will send all of this to you so you don't have to take notes. Please feel to take as many photos as you want, but this way it's slightly easier sometimes. So you may be wondering, where is this strange accent from? I'm originally from Sri Lanka, and I grew up in London, and I live in the United States, which explains this very strange accent you're about to hear for the next 30 minutes. But I'm somebody who is, I believe, a citizen of the world. I've lived all around the world, and it's my delight to travel around the world and talk about this topic of purpose. But I want to tell you about how I found my own purpose in the first place, and the journey begins in Sri Lanka. Hands up, anybody who's been to Sri Lanka here? Okay, a good few people. It's 6 hours from Dubai. It's a very short flight. It is absolutely beautiful, as you can see from that picture there. I highly encourage you to visit it at some point. My journey starts after 20 years of marketing and working for these multinational companies around the world like Procter & Gamble and Nokia. I thought I was happy in my career. I thought I had everything. I had the title, I had the salary, all the benefits. But something changed in Sri Lanka to really change the trajectory of my life. See, I happened to be there for my brother's wedding. My little brother was getting married, a happy occasion. Unfortunately, he happened to be getting married on December 26th, 2004, which is a date some of you may remember. That was when the Asian tsunami hit the entire Indian Ocean region. And it went from looking like this to looking like this. Massive waves hitting the coastline, destroying tens of thousands of homes, and killing 30,000 people on one day. It was a tragedy of epic proportions. My country, where I'd grown up, was devastated. I was safe. I was unharmed. I was in Colombo, the capital city. By the grace of God, I was nowhere near the wave. And I spent the next few weeks helping to pick up the pieces of my country, helping my fellow countrymen get food and shelter and clothing. And then I had to go back to work in London at the time and continue my job working in marketing, but something had changed inside of me. I would be walking down the street and I would suddenly burst into tears and I couldn't understand what was going on. And it was only when I went to see a psychologist, he said, well, you have post-traumatic stress disorder. And I said, how can I have PTSD? I survived. And he said, that's precisely it. You have a form of PTSD called survivor guilt. Why did you survive when all those other people didn't? And I realize now that was the day that question entered my life. Why did I survive? And what was I supposed to do with the time left on the planet? And how could I leave it a little bit better than I found it as well? Another turning point was becoming a father to my son. This is my son, Nuri. He is my pride and joy. He is my light. My wife, Rukshana, and I adopted him from Sri Lanka after the tsunami. We felt like we had to do something to help that country and the people in it. And hands up, everyone here who's a parent. Just put your hand up if you're a parent. Okay. You know what happens when a child enters your life. You are no longer the most important thing in your life, right? And you start thinking about this little one. And you start thinking about what kind of role model you're setting for them. And moreover, what kind of world you're helping to create for them. And that was really the turning point when I realized I had to devote the rest of my life to unlocking the power of business as a force for good and trying to unlock the power of purpose. It led to me starting Conspiracy of Love, which I know is a strange name for a company. A lot of people think it's a cult. It's not a cult. It comes from a very beautiful idea that we are all products of a positive conspiracy of love between our parents, our teachers, our neighbors, and friends who loved us and helped conspire to help make us better. And therefore, we need to form a new conspiracy of love to help other people. And we do this through working with some of these companies you see on screen here, helping them unlock what we call values-based storytelling and impact in the world. I've written about this in 3 books now. The first book was about brand purpose, how brands talk to their customers in a values-driven way. The second book about organizational purpose. And the third, which came out in November, about personal purpose. How do you find it in your career and connect it to that of your company? I think it's one of the biggest questions that so many people are asking. So today I really want to focus on the distinction between them. It unlocks in business what we call the purpose flywheel. If you do this right, if you create a strong, powerful story and lead with purpose, and secondly, you empower all of your employees to find their own purpose and connect it to that of their company, and thirdly, you unlock innovation, platforms, new business models. That's how you can really find a way to do well by doing good. And so we spend all of our time at Conspiracy thinking about the intersecting points between these 3 things. So today I want to talk to you about what is organizational purpose, what is personal purpose, and how can you get in alignment with your assignment? How can you find that overlap for yourselves as leaders, but also take your employees on this journey as well? I'll start by talking about the first of the 3 Ps I'm going to talk about in this talk. I'm going to talk about the polycrisis, purpose. I'm going to talk about project management. So the polycrisis is a word that I found to describe this moment that we seem to be in, a time of great societal overwhelm and confusion when all of these different crises seem to be working together. I don't know about you, when I look at the news, I get kind of worried when I flip through the news of war or economic crisis or AI taking jobs. And certainly here, at this moment in time, when I see my city of Los Angeles on fire, the threat of climate change is nearer than ever before. And I realize now how we are fighting a 21st century problem with 18th century solutions. And this is really the moment, I think, that we need to wake up and understand how we have the solutions in our grasp. We just need the will and effort to put them into practice. And also what gives me hope is the people. The people of Los Angeles are coming together right now to help their fellow citizens in their times of need, helping them with food and shelter and clothing and all of those things, just like 2004, back when the tsunami hit the country. So to me, this is a great awakening of purpose in people. That is happening. People want to help. They want to get involved. But I don't believe we're in the age of the polycrisis. I believe actually we're in the age of opportunity because everything has to change. And you realize this here in Dubai. There is such a vision for the future. There's such visionary leadership backed up with incredible project management to make all of this happen. Here's where I think we're in the age of opportunity. First of all, we're at the beginning of the decarbonization of everything. We understand that we now need to move into a clean energy ecosystem, and the opportunity is vast. The investor Chris Sacca, who is one of the early investors in companies like Uber and Twitter, said the amount of wealth that is going to be created with climate tech will wildly eclipse all the wealth ever created by the internet in total. That's the size of the prize. There's this idea of a climate gigacorn that is beginning to take shape. So if you think about a unicorn company, a company valued at $1 billion, a climate gigacorn is a company valued at $1 billion for taking 1 billion tons of carbon out of the atmosphere. If you think about Tesla, Tesla is already a climate gigacorn. And the world needs 54 more gigacorns to help deal with the carbon emissions problem. I believe those are the companies that will rule the future. And if we move away from climate and think about things like the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, I'm sure you all know this, the biggest problems on the planet. Here's something you may not know. It's calculated that if we solve these problems, it will unlock $12 trillion in value and approximately 380 million jobs a year. That is the size of the prize out there. And that's why we spend all of our time helping companies think about how to solve these problems profitably. And the key to it is organizational purpose, understanding why your company exists. This is our definition. The higher order reason for an organization's existence, that it inspires action to solve the problems of the world. When we go into companies, we spend time figuring out two things: what their superpowers are and what the world needs. And we were honored to work with the Project Management Institute, with PMI, 18 months ago to help articulate their purpose. On the left, PMI superpowers, we realized, was a community that inspires, connects, and empowers everyone to get things done. And on the right, a world that urgently needs ideas turned into action. At the intersection point of both of those things lies the purpose of PMI, to maximize project success, to elevate our world. And that's why I think project management as a profession, the time is now for this profession. This is how we mobilize to help solve these problems in ways that are innovative and sustainable as well. We've done this work for other companies as well. Last year, we worked on Gap Inc. With the new president and CEO, Richard Dixon. This is the new purpose statement: we bridge gaps to create a better world. And all of their brands, from Banana Republic, Old Navy, are now thinking about different impact problems to solve. We also work with Akamai, an incredible cloud and cybersecurity company, around their purpose of powering and protecting life online. These stories are what gives the employees of these companies pride to come to work and helps explain to all of their stakeholders why they exist. And when you look at all the data as to why this is essential, it starts to become clearer. If you look at your three biggest stakeholders out there, your customers, your investors, and your employees, they are all asking for your businesses and organizations to do more good. Your younger generations of consumers want to work in a place where their work matters, where it's laddering up to something more than just a quarterly profit goal. Your customers will become more loyal, more likely to recommend your brand if they see you as having values and doing something positive. And when it comes to investors, increasingly the younger generations are saying, I want to invest my stocks and shares in companies that I see doing good for people and the planet. So if your three biggest stakeholders are telling you this, it's time to start paying attention. And the prize on the other side of it is huge. This is the latest data. Purpose-driven companies gain a competitive advantage over time, 13.6 growth, 3 times the competition. That is the size of the prize. All of which why we say purpose transformation is the new digital transformation. Every single company should be thinking about their purpose and telling this values-driven story to future-proof themselves. So that's organizational purpose. Let me talk a little bit about personal purpose as well. And I want to start by telling you a little bit about a survey that we found that Gallup did globally to really think about one big question about people's happiness at work. And I want to ask you a question. So Gallup did this survey globally, and they asked people, are you happy and engaged at work? Okay, are you happy and engaged at work? And I want you to yell out what percentage said, yes, I'm happy and engaged. Yell it out, anybody here? 20? Anybody higher than 20? 100%. This is a very optimistic lady here. Hello, thank you. You must be very happy in your job. Anywhere between 20 and 100? 40? It's 23%. Only 23% of employees globally said, I am happy and engaged at work. Okay, here's another question. This data was broken down by the Middle East as well. What do you think the number in the Middle East is? Higher than 23%? Yes? It's not. It's 14%. I know. When you see these numbers, it's shocking, right? but they reflect something going on, that there is a sense of disengagement. And so when we looked at the data and we said, okay, well, what do these 23% have in common? What are the ones who are really happy? What do they have in common? According to this incredible book, Drive, the Science of What Motivates Us, it's these three things: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Autonomy is the ability to do self-directed work. No one is micromanaging you, no one's looking over your shoulder. You have a sense of independence. Mastery is a sense of technical proficiency in your work. Many of you may have taken the CAPM or the PMP. All of those certifications are you becoming better in your profession. And then finally, purpose, maqsood, in this context, different to organizational purpose. It turns out it's an ancient concept. It's in so many different cultures around the world. This is our definition for it, by the way, that's in the book. Your purpose is your reason for being in this moment that gives you a sense of clarity, courage, and focus, and inspires how you can be of benefit to others and the world. There's a couple of things to pull out here. One is, it's your purpose in this moment. Your purpose changes. That's why it's more like a compass. It's a direction, not a destination. It keeps changing over time. And secondly, it's of how you can be of benefit to others. As you'll see, purpose is about service to others as well. It's in many cultures around the world. In French, you would call it your raison d'être. Japanese have a beautiful word called ikigai. In Sanskrit Buddhism, there is your dharma, your courageous duty. And as I've come to learn here in this part of the world, there are many terms for it, but one common one seems to be maqsood as well. So we set off on this journey with our last book to really understand this topic much more. And any journey has to start with this gentleman. His name is Viktor Frankl. He was a survivor in Nazi concentration camps in World War II. And he noticed that those prisoners who survived actually had a reason to live that gave them a sense of resilience. And he put it beautifully: those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how. This might be familiar to those of you who studied sociology. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's very famous. It's a pyramid of human needs ranging from the most basic to the most sophisticated. And it starts at the bottom with physiological needs: food, water, shelter, warmth. If you think about a person who is homeless, who doesn't have any of those things, you can see how difficult it is for them to rise up through the pyramid, right? In the middle are things like belongingness and love, having families, having relationships of friends. Then come self-esteem needs. Oftentimes things like job titles, I think, are a great representation of that. It shows people how you've come up in the world. And at the very top was self-actualization, becoming the fullest version of yourself. But the strange thing was, in our research, we kept meeting people who had achieved it, who had gotten to the top of their ladder, who had the job title, the benefits, but something was still missing. And it was only when we realized that Maslow changed the top of the pyramid before he died that it started to make sense. This is what he changed it to: self-transcendence, helping others, spiritual experiences. And when we saw that, we said, he's talking about purpose. Because it's the moment the pyramid stops being about you and starts being about you in service to something bigger. Another way we like to talk about it is that purpose is like a river with many streams flowing into it. Everybody has different streams flowing into your sense of purpose. It's as unique as your fingerprint. As I mentioned, for me, being a good father and a good husband is a deep source of purpose and meaning. I'm sure for many of you, your family is a source of that. For others, it's your faith. Your religion gives you that sense of meaning, right? It's true for billions of people around the world. For many others, it's your country. If you think about people who are soldiers or people who are working in the government on behalf of making their country better, like so many of you are here with Dubai, that patriotism gives you a sense of purpose. For others, it could be volunteering or doing work in your community. You're not doing those things because they give you money, but they give you meaning. In fact, work was one of the few places where you weren't supposed to have meaning. A job was just a job, right? But now I think that's what's changed. I think today there is a sense that people want their work to matter. If it's the place that we're going to spend most of our lives, let's face it, right? 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, 40 years, shouldn't that be a place of meaning too? So let's look at purpose in your work and understand it a bit better. One of my favorite stories is to do with President John F. Kennedy walking around NASA in the 1960s when he had challenged NASA to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. And the story goes, he sees a janitor mopping the floor. And he walks up to him and says, "Excuse me, sir, what do you do here?" And the janitor stood straight up and said, "Mr. President, I'm here to put a man on the moon." And I love that story because it shows you that no matter how humble your task is, if you can connect your personal purpose to that of the organization, that gives you a sense of pride and meaning that makes you proud to come to that company. I love this quote from Adam Grant, "The evolution of self-esteem in a career. Phase 1, I'm not important. Phase 2, I am important. And phase 3, I want to work on something important." And what's fascinating is that data shows that every single generation in the workforce today thinks that. This is data on millennials, Gen X, and baby boomers. When asked, what is your most important career goal? Number 1 is, I want to have a positive impact on my organization. But look at number 2. I want to help solve social and/or environmental challenges. I want my work to matter. When I look back at my career, I want to know what difference I made in the world. And when you look at the benefits of purpose, it starts to become clear why this is something which everybody should explore. The benefits of purpose to employers, let's start there. 57% less turnover. Even doing something as simple as volunteering and fundraising, it leads to people staying longer. And if you think about the problem of replacing somebody who's left, I think the data is it's 1.5 times their salary in terms of cost, not to mention all of the institutional memory that is lost and all the hassle. You start to see why having that meaning helps people stay longer. The engagement levels in purpose-driven companies, 90%, compared to those in the lower productivity and lower engagement companies I talked about before. 225% more productivity. People come to work with a fire in their belly. They want to come because they feel like their work matters. Let's look at the benefits to employees. 5 times higher levels of well-being, 4 times higher levels of engagement, and a 50% higher likelihood of being in leadership. Purpose gives you clarity and courage as well. That's why we think it's so important for leaders to have it. The physical health benefits of purpose, 32% fewer doctor's visits, 72% less likely to die by a stroke. I'm not sure how they calculated that data, by the way. Did they go to people who were having a stroke and said, do you have purpose? But I like it, so I'm going to keep it in. And 7+ longer lifespan in years. If you watch the documentary called Blue Zones on Netflix, which is about the places where people live to over 100 years, when they looked at those 5 places on the planet, amongst the common factors were things like diet and exercise, yes, but also purpose. They had a reason to get up in the morning. That kept them going, that kept them alive. And finally, the mental health benefits of purpose, 42% more contentment, twice the daily learning, and look at this, a 539% increase in resilience. Do you remember the Viktor Frankl quote? Those who have a why can bear almost any how. So that's why we think this is this hidden superpower that is lying right there that so many companies like yours could unleash. And so the question becomes, how? How do you find it? And we were lucky enough to meet a gentleman called Drew Pettigrew who came up with this very simple model to helping find your purpose. It's called GPS. And the metaphor is very simple. Just like when you're lost on the street or in your car, what do? You turn on your GPS, right, to figure out which direction to go in. The metaphor is the same if you're in your career and you're seeking that clarity. Each of these letters stands for something. The G stands for what are your gifts? What are your superpowers? What are the things you do better than anybody else? The P stands for passions. What are the problems you want to solve in the world? And the S stands for service. Who can you be of service to with your gifts and passions? I'll talk a little bit about each of these one by one, because at the intersection point of those three things is your purpose. If you can find it, and then also find an organization which matches it, that's when the good things happen. So your gifts, let's start with your gifts. If you went to your 5 closest friends or your 5 closest colleagues and said, what do I do better than anybody else that you know? That's your gift. That's your superpower. It could be many things. It could be having a vision. It could be the determination to break down problems. It could be being empathic. It could be being a good listener. Everybody's superpower is different, so taking time to understand yours is crucial. The P is about passion, but I don't mean passion in the sense of hobbies or things you like to do in your spare time, like travel or food. These are passions about the problems you want to solve in the world. What gets you mad? What breaks your heart? What makes you want to get out of bed and do something about it in the morning? Understanding that about yourself is crucial. And then finally, service. Because remember, purpose is not about yourself. It's always about service to something bigger than yourself. And it's different for every single person in this room. Your purpose and service could be about one person. It could be about your team. It could be about your company. It could be for your country, or it could be to the planet. Everybody is drawn to different altitudes. There is no right or wrong answer. But understanding that about yourself, what you are most closely drawn to, helps you identify that as well. So this is the work we do in companies with leaders, helping everybody go on their journey to understand their gifts, their passions, and how they can be of service. This led me to understanding my own purpose as well. I realized I had a gift of storytelling, that I loved finding stories in the world that could help people make sense of their lives. I was passionate about unlocking the power of business as a force for good, and I decided to be of service to people like yourselves, traveling around the world, speaking about it, writing about it, and helping companies unlock it. My purpose is to inspire purpose in people and organizations. And so I want to thank you for helping me live my purpose right here today. Thank you. So I hope you will also think about, what are your gifts? What are your passions? How can you be of service through the work that you're doing with your organizations? And how can you too get in alignment with your assignment as well? I want to talk about this noble profession of project management. Like I said, I think it's a discipline whose time has come now. And I want each of you to think about how you can maximize project success to elevate Dubai, to elevate the region, and ultimately elevate the world. As I said before, I think this city has the inspiration and promise for so many cities around the world, and I hope you can export this unique blend of optimism and courage and audacity to the rest of the world. We certainly need it. I love this quote from Peter Diamandis, who I know has spoken here before, when he said, "The world's biggest problems are the world's biggest opportunities." Problems are gold mines if you can find a way to get your companies involved in solving them. But through it all, remember this: your values drive your value. Those values that make you a good mother, daughter, sister, husband, father, brother, those are the values that we need to hold on to when we come to work every day. And I leave you with my favorite quote from Mark Twain: "The two most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why." The day I found out why was December 26, 2004. I realized my purpose looking back, to travel around the world and come and help spread this message. And I hope hearing me speak today has helped you get one step closer to the day that you find out why. Thank you very much.